Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. Today I want to talk about the first video I've done in a very long time, and I think with how many book reviews I've done, people can get off my tail. I think it's okay to make a new one of these. Things like Goosebumps. Of course, my channel is entirely focused, for the most part, on Goosebumps, the R.L. Stine book series. And I talk about some other stuff here and there that are kind of like that and similar to it, whether it's written by R.L. Stine, whether it's something just in general that's just different and odd. One of the biggest influences, arguably to this day, on R.L. Stine's writing, at least as the Goosebumps series, was the Universal Classic Monster series. And I just happened to find out not too long ago that in February, the end of February, I think it's the 28th, we have the remake from Universal, not another company, from Universal, of The Invisible Man. The 1933 James Whale film. I think it's the first remake of Invisible Man we've had in a very, very long time. I think it's since the last film, which is like Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, 1951. So it's been a very long time. It's been like, that's like what, 70 years? Right at 70 years? Something like that. I don't know if there was any kind of like remakes they did before that of Invisible Man by specifically Universal Pictures. I know that there's, you know, all these other companies that have done their own little thing, like Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon. But anyway, Invisible Man. This is a fantastic film for the most part. It's almost perfect. It's almost perfect, I would say. I really love the film in a lot of respects. I think it has some of the best practical effects I have ever seen in a movie. A lot of people have count that to things like the movie The Thing, the remake that John Carpenter made of the old The Thing from Another World film. I love The Thing, and this is like what special effects were great and classic and timeless and everything before The Thing came out. Invisible Man was made in 1933 by James Whale, who also directed the Frankenstein, Boris Karloff movie back in 1931, and then I think in 1935, I believe is what it was, he did Bride of Frankenstein, the sequel to the first Frankenstein film. I think it's how it worked. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's how that process worked. The film has an amazing cast. The Invisible Man himself is played by Claude Rains. You also have the little fella from It's a Wonderful Life that played the angel that watched over Jimmy Stewart. I forgot his name. I think it's like Clarence. I'm pretty sure it's Clarence. His name is Henry Travers, of course, the actor. His character in here is Dr. Cranley. And you also have a lady named Flora Cranley, which is his daughter, played by Gloria Stewart, who was very good as well. Now, of course, The Invisible Man is based off of the H.G. Wells novel. If you don't know who that guy is, he wrote War of the Worlds, which is very popular as well. I haven't seen the original film adaptation of that, so I don't know if it's any good. I haven't read the Invisible Man novel either. I want to read that at some point because I think it might be really good. Possibly, because Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Still haven't finished it. Been trying to read it forever, and I love it. It's just, I'm not motivated to read it that often. I don't know. I'm weird like that, you know? But Invisible Man is just, it's fun, it's hysterical, and sometimes it's kind of scary, frankly. But it's more funny than anything. I would say it's a very humorous movie. And it was humor done by James Whale correctly before you get to Bride of Frankenstein. And Bride of Frankenstein, I'm not a fan of. There's parts of it that I love, like the blind man scene. Other than that, not really. I don't really like that movie all that much. I love most of the Frankenstein films, I'll be honest with you. And Claude Rains steals the show here. He is the Invisible Man. I don't think anybody will ever be as good as he is as Invisible Man. Even in this new remake that's coming out that I'm really excited to see, and I hope I can make a video on it. Possibly, God willing. If I get a chance to see it in theaters, I'll try to. If I have to wait till DVD, I'll still try to. But this was just, every time I watch this movie, I become more intrigued by it. The problem that I have is there's a certain actress that James Whale became obsessed with, and she does the same thing here as a different character than she does in Bride of Frankenstein, when she's in that as a different character too. Her name is Una O'Connor. And I'll get to her in a moment. I just wanted to mention that first and foremost. Basically, Claude Rains' character, the Invisible Man, is a scientist who did an experiment that turned himself invisible by accident. It kind of just got into his bloodstream, I guess, and it took over everything, and just, he's slowly going crazy, whilst also, think of it like rabies, almost. He's invisible at the current moment, but he's slowly going insane. You know, he's slowly losing his mind. He's wrapped himself up in bandages and everything. He's wearing these really thick coats and everything, a hat, sunglasses, even when it's snowing hardcore outside. Which, by the way, this film is a very snowy movie. If you want a really cool, like, winter-type movie, because you have like Frankenstein and Dracula that would be great to watch during October, you know? This is a cool winter movie, I would say. Because, like, Creature is something you could watch during summertime with all the cool stuff in the sequels. But anyway, in this movie, this is kind of the winter film, and he's walking out in the snow, and he basically found an inn that also has a bar and stuff in a small town. And he goes in, he's very rude, very, very rude to people. Una O'Connor, the little woman I mentioned, the little old sweet lady that is just obnoxious in her movie performances. I'm sure she's probably a sweet lady in real life. She and her husband own this inn, and he gets a room from them to stay upstairs, and he does. And he tells them to bring him food and stuff. I think he stays for 2 weeks, and then they all start having like a really bad falling out. He like threatens Una O'Connor and like shoves her out of his room and everything. And it's pretty bad, that moment. Una O'Connor starts squealing and screaming at the top of her lungs, and this goes on for like 10 minutes in this movie. Mind you, this movie's like an hour and 10 minutes. So to have an old lady screaming and yelling at the top of her lungs is just... You don't know what obnoxious is until you've heard Una O'Connor scream in this movie and in Bride of Frankenstein. Then you know. If you can deal with that, then you have the patience of a saint and you should be a parent. Other than that, no. It's not easy to deal with. I've heard of a lot of people that I know on like Universal Monsters pages on Facebook, like the fan pages, say that when they get to her parts, they just fast forward. They don't want to deal with her, and I understand that entirely. She ruins the movie. She ruins both movies in a lot of respects. But again, I still blame James Whale more than anybody because he put her into the film. Anyway, the Invisible Man, Claude Rains himself, at this point, we have seen that like one time before he gets kicked out, the special effects in this movie. When you look into the behind-the-scenes stuff and find out how they did certain special effects, it's mind-boggling. It is some of the most amazing stuff that was done back then that I cannot get over to this day. I'm so amazed by what James Whale did with this movie. It should not be as good as it is. It should not be as technical and different as it is. You probably assume, since it's an old black and white film, that there's probably nothing to appreciate here. If you're a younger person, younger than me, I'm 25, if you're younger than me and you don't want to see this film, that's probably because of just this bias that you have about just watching newer films. I'm telling you, if you watch this movie, you'll probably be entertained. There's a lot of great humor that still holds up to this day, and this was made at a time where families could watch this stuff and not have to worry about anything sexual or anything gory or anything like that. They could have fun watching a cool movie. And it's just all around fun. I really love the film for the most part. It isn't perfect. Like I said, the Una O'Connor stuff kills me every time I watch the movie. But it has so much to offer. The practical effects are amazing. One of my favorite things is when the Invisible Man is out in the snow and he's walking, you just see footprints. And to find out behind the scenes on the documentary about how they did that for this old 1933 film, it's incredible. It's just genuinely the word incredible. Because it shouldn't have been able to be done that well back then. It just shows how these guys, James Whale and his team, were thinking outside of the box on how to do these things. And I am immensely impressed, and I will always never forget how great their work was here. Even in the sequels, I would say the CGI and special effects and stuff are okay for the most part, but they're nowhere as close to being great as they are here, in my opinion. I don't have a whole lot more to say. The music is okay. Kind of good at moments, I would say, but just mostly just fine and decent. That's what I feel like a lot of with black and white movies. They don't really have the best soundtracks. They have really suitable soundtracks. Unlike modern day movies that don't really have anything of a soundtrack or a score or anything. So this is fine for that. The characters are really cool. Watching the Invisible Man trying to deal with this science experiment that's gone wrong before he goes back to be with his fiance and his friend and his family and his father-in-law with It's a Wonderful Life guy. It's kind of emotionally sad, frankly. I really find this like sweet nature to the movie in that regard. It's kind of depressing in that regard, but it really hits you in a good way. And again, the humor is always great. Claude Rains can be so fun and scary at the same time, just losing his mind, screaming and laughing at the top of his lungs. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. And there's so much death in this movie. There's more death in this movie than there is in like Frankenstein films, which is really hard to believe. So there's just... I could not recommend this enough to you. If you haven't really been impressed with most of the Universal Monster films, if you've seen those and you're not really impressed, you might like this a lot. This might be more up your alley, especially for a modern audience, because there's so much humor to it. Again, the Una O'Connor thing might ruin that. I don't know for sure, but it might. But if I had to rate The Invisible Man, the original 1933 film, on a 5-star basis, I would give this like a 4 out of 5, like a really high 4 out of 5. It's really honestly worth it. I believe this was what the basis for the Invisible Boy in Frankenstein was. I'm pretty confident because of the name, Invisible Man, Invisible Boy. He could be his son. You never know. Good movie. Really, really good movie. I recommend it tremendously. I've been watching through the sequels because I want to see all of these before the new movie comes out. and I don't know how soon I'll get that review out for that. I'm going to try to get these videos out. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I want to do this. I'm not going to jump over to reviewing all these things like Goosebumps books and comics and stuff. Just wanted to talk about the Invisible Man films for the time being. Maybe get some new people in here when the film comes out, the remake and all that. But anyway, what are your thoughts on The Invisible Man? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think about Claude Rains' performance? I would love to hear more people give this guy attention for that. He deserves it. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below, guys. What was your favorite practical effect in the entire film? That was what I was really impressed with. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot more to say. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for me. It's really great. God bless you and goodbye.